how can you make sure your child is fulfilling their musical potential? Now, there's a lot of things you can do as a parent when your child is taking music lessons. They're learning a musical instrument. And I know that a lot of us want our children to thrive. We want them to have fun with music. And we also know that more time spent practicing an instrument usually results in better progress and more skills. However, there's a balance to be made. We don't want our kids to practice so much that they get burned out, they get overwhelmed, and then decide they want to quit their music lessons. Also, we don't want them to practice so little that they hardly make any progress and thus also feel really discouraged about making music and thus not meeting their potential for musical, skills. And so a lot of parents will come to me and they ask, how long should my kid practice their instrument? There's actually two main schools of thought when it comes to how long a child should be practicing their instrument. So we'll break it down and then you can decide for yourself what you think is best suited for your child and for your situation. The first school of thought looks at a certain amount of time and assigns that amount of time to the child. Some people will say, well, if a child is taking a 30-minute lesson once a week, then their daily practice needs to be 30 minutes in length. So lesson time equals lesson or the practice at home and how long that is. And that makes some sense, right? A child can focus for 30 minutes in the lesson, then it seems like they should be able to focus for 30 minutes at home. Another way to think about it, some people will say, well, it's what grade they are in times 10. So a first grader will be practicing 10 minutes a day, third grader 30 minutes, sixth grader 60 minutes. You get the idea. And so in some ways, this is a nice guideline for a lot of parents. But the downside to this is that there is really no accountability unless you are ready to sit by your child's side and make sure they cover every single thing that they must do in the way that has been assigned. And I have to say, a lot of parents are really ready to do this. And if you do, hats off to you, because you are going to have a child that progresses more easily and quickly. But a lot of parents don't have time, and I totally understand that as well, because we're so busy. And so if you just assign a certain amount of time for your child to practice, they can just go off, practice badly. They can do all sorts of really bad technique and play the wrong notes, and they can fill up, 30 or 60 minutes, but it's sloppy playing. And you know what happens with sloppy playing. The more you do it, the more it becomes ingrained, and that becomes a downward spiral. So the other school of thought really looks at the purpose for making music, the purpose for practice. One of my favorite music educators, Edmund Sprunger, he says that the purpose for practice is to make things easier. It's to make playing the instrument easier. So for instance, your child is attempting to play a piece that's either new or really difficult. And the more your child is able to practice in a way that helps them understand and learn those particular notes and how to phrase it really well, the more your child practices, the more that piece becomes easy to play. And really, that is the goal, I think, of making music, of practicing, is to get to the point where something's really easy to play, and then it becomes fun and it becomes joyful. And that's what parents say they want, really, is, hey, I want my kid to have fun. And that's how you get to the fun, by practicing deliberately, making things easier, and getting to that point where your child can just play without really focusing too hard on the tiny little parts. But in order to get there, your child actually has to have practice goals. And so this other school of thought really focuses on practice goals. And these practice goals should be led by the teacher. In the lesson, what really needs to be happening is the teacher identifies what needs to change in a certain song or a certain piece, helps the child correct the things that need to be corrected. So for instance, maybe your child is working on a piece and they're getting certain notes incorrect. So during the lesson, the teacher needs to go in, needs to say, okay, well, here are the correct notes, or guides them to find the correct notes. They play it in the lesson. The teacher makes sure that the child understands how to practice it, and then practice is assigned for home study. And the practice has to be specific in such a way that the child says, okay, I've done it this way, and then I'm done. So one way that the teacher could assign that practice so that it's goal-oriented, the teacher could say, okay, this small section where we're looking on correcting these notes, make sure you practice this small section 5 times in a row with accurate notes. And then when your child has done that, then, okay, once you've done that, then play the entire piece. And you can count this as being done when you've gone through these note areas that were really difficult, and you've played those accurately. And you play the entire piece 3 times with accurate notes. Once you're done with those 3 times, then you've reached your goal. And so then the child knows, oh, okay, I just need to do X, Y, and Z, and then I'm done. I've reached my goal. And for a lot of children, this is really nice to have a very specific goal for each piece. Then they know what to do, and it doesn't matter how much time they spent at their instrument, because what they're doing is high quality practice. That's really what we want our children to do when they practice. We want them to make high quality repetitions and to really buckle down and focus. So it's okay if your child is practicing only maybe 10 minutes in the very beginning. If those 10 minutes are focused and done really well, then that's going to be much better than if your child was at that instrument for 30 minutes really doing sloppy playing. So I highly recommend this second school of thought in terms of helping your child and guiding them to play with a practice goal in mind. Now, this all is contingent on making sure that you have a teacher who is the right fit for your child. This is a topic that I talk about a lot in my How to Raise a Musical Child online class. I'll put details below in case you want to check that out. And we go into all sorts of different aspects of music practice. I also have more videos, so you should check out my other videos on music practice. And if you have any questions or thoughts or any topics that you would like me to cover, please put them in the comments. I always read the comments, and I really appreciate all the feedback that you give me. And of course, if you can, please subscribe, like, and share this video with people who could really use this information. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.